Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the blueprint of an American icon. This is the story of a brilliant legal mind who didn't just play by the rules. She fundamentally redesigned the game. Yeah, you definitely recognize the image, right? The pop culture fame, the iconic lace collars. But behind all that was a meticulous architect with a very specific plan. And today, we're going to break that plan down. So that's the real question, isn't it? How did a quiet, unassuming lawyer from Brooklyn, who faced discrimination at pretty much every turn, develop a long-game strategy that would methodically, piece by piece, reshape American law? To really get her strategy, you first have to understand the world she was up against. And these weren't just small hurdles. We're talking about a massive wall of cultural and legal barriers. So picture this. It's 1956. Ruth Bader Ginsburg walks into Harvard Law School. She was one of only 9 women, 9, in a class of about 500 men. Just try to imagine that ratio for a second. And this question, wow. This wasn't just some classmate trying to give her a hard time. This was reportedly asked by the dean of Harvard Law himself at a dinner for the female students. The message couldn't have been clearer, right? This attitude came from the very top. And it didn't stop when she graduated, first in her class, by the way. She was demoted from a job just for being pregnant. She was denied a simple transfer. And she was even rejected for a super prestigious Supreme Court clerkship because, well, she was a woman. It was obvious the system itself was the problem. Okay, so let's get into it, her brilliant step-by-step plan. Faced with this completely biased system, she didn't just get mad. Nope, she got strategic. She decided she was going to dismantle gender discrimination from the ground up. So, as director of the ACLU's Women's Rights Project, she laid out this master plan. She knew she couldn't tear the whole house down at once, so she decided to remove one discriminatory brick at a time. She'd target very specific laws, and each victory would set the stage for the next one. And here's the genius move. She often chose men as her plaintiffs to prove that these gender-based laws, they hurt everybody, not just women. And her effectiveness? It was just stunning. I mean, look at this record. As a lawyer, she argued 6 gender discrimination cases before the Supreme Court, and she won 5 of them. Each case chipped away at a different injustice, from housing benefits to survivors' rights. Now, the Craig v. Bourne case, this was a game changer. Her win created a whole new legal test called intermediate scrutiny. What that basically means is that from then on, the government had to have an exceedingly persuasive justification for any law that treated men and women differently. That's a huge shift. It made it way, way harder to defend discriminatory laws. All this incredible success as an architect of the law, well, it didn't go unnoticed. In fact, it built the foundation for the next massive chapter in her career, a seat on the federal bench. Her rise was truly historic. First, President Carter put her on the really influential D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals back in 1980. And then, in 1993, President Clinton nominated her to the highest court in the land, the U.S. Supreme Court. You know, this quote just says it all. It's from her ideological opposite on the court, and also her dear friend, Antonin Scalia. He called her the Thurgood Marshall of the women's rights movement. I mean, comparing her to the civil rights legend, that's some serious respect. So once she's on the Supreme Court, she keeps right on with her life's work, but now from the judge's bench. She wrote the majority opinion in a landmark case that finally struck down the Virginia Military Institute's male-only admissions policy. And right here, this is where her whole journey comes full circle. As a justice, she took the exact legal standard she had fought for as a lawyer and baked it into the law of the land in a majority opinion. That phrase, exceedingly persuasive justification, was now the official rule. But here's the thing, she also became famous for her powerful dissents. In the Ledbetter case, the court made it way harder for women to sue for unequal pay by imposing this crazy strict 180-day deadline. Ginsburg passionately argued that this was just absurd. You know, women often don't find out they're being underpaid for years. Her argument was so clear, so compelling, that it directly inspired Congress to step in. They passed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, which basically turned her dissent into the new law. It's just an amazing example of her influence, even when she was in the minority. So when you zoom out and look at her entire career, from advocate to justice, what's the lasting impact? It's this incredible, enduring framework for equality that she's so carefully built, piece by piece.
This line is so famous, and it just perfectly captures her whole judicial philosophy. It's from a dissent in a big voting rights case. It's such a brilliant metaphor, right? Don't get rid of legal protections that are working just because they're working. It's such a practical and powerful defense of civil rights.
Through her methodical, step-by-step work, Ruth Bader Ginsburg didn't just argue a few cases. She literally built a new legal foundation for equality in America. The structure's there. So the question she leaves behind for all of us is, who's going to design and build the next chapter?